Here with another segment of Movie Blabber, and this week the topic of discussion is Spider-Man: Far From Home, the ending of the Infinity Saga. And with me to discuss such a movie is actually becoming a good friend. I was on his podcast, the Nerd Cantina, not too long ago to talk about comics. We've got Steve here from the Nerd Cantina. What's up, man?
How's it going, guys?
Dude, I'm happy. I'm happy to talk about this movie. I'm not gonna lie, I went to go record this podcast by myself yesterday. Now that this isn't any fun, I want to talk to somebody that actually watched the movie, and I want to get another reaction out of it. Because I noticed one thing: as much as I follow you and your podcast, we tend to have very differing opinions on a lot of movies. So
Okay.
I think that just makes for a much more interesting podcast when it's
Oh,
not
for sure. For
agreeing
sure.
with myself. So, well, I want to start out by saying, how did you feel going into the movie? What was your hype level like?
Well, considering the media campaign that Marvel and Disney put out, I was a little skeptical going in. I wasn't too excited because I felt like it was going to carry um, some of the parts of Endgame I didn't quite enjoy. And I thought they were going to double down on that in Spider-Man, given the fact of all the trailers and the hype and the talk, before it's released. So I kind of went in with just kind of like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, yeah. I went in not expecting much until they dropped that whole multiverse thing on me, and I thought, oh shit, okay, that they're really ending it with a bang here. And by the way, this is a completely spoiler filled podcast. So for all the listeners out there, make sure you go see the movie before you listen to this. So don't worry about spoilers.
If you're listening to a comic book podcast, you should probably have seen it by now.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. This isn't for movie fans. These are for comic book. This is a podcast for comic book fans. So, yeah. Full disclosure. So yeah, from here on out, there will be tons of spoilers. I'm not tiptoeing around anything. But in the most Mysterio of fashions, we got Mysterio when they dropped the whole multiverse thing. There was no multiverse. I mean, there is a multiverse, but it didn't play into this movie at all. It was all just a giant ruse by Mysterio, who, of course, did turn out to be the bad guy, like we all expected it to be, at least the comic book nerds.
And honest to God, that was like I let out a big sigh of relief once I found out the multiverse was a bunch of bullshit. Like I really just kind of like took a deep breath and was just like, thank God we're not just gonna go down this rabbit hole of what ifs and could be's and this is this and that is that. Like by the end of the movie, I was just so happy to have kind of gotten back to a normal place in the MCU.
It was a good time to breathe. It was a finale to the whole saga, but at the same time, there wasn't any big bombs dropped or anything. It was just a cool movie. It gave us time to breathe. It doesn't give us anything to really look forward to massively in the MCU. It doesn't really give us any inclination of what's going to happen in Phase 4. Really, I mean, there's a couple of things maybe, but nothing massive. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
a relief.
it played really well in addressing a lot of the things that needed to be addressed, and it really did it in a kind of a lighthearted way. Infinity War and Endgame were really heavy movies. There was a lot of weight to them. They were really heavy. It was really good for Spider-Man to come back and give a little bit of lighthearted. Wasn't like campy or anything like that, but it let the air back in the room. You could breathe again.
I,
You
I
know,
I totally agree. I think that's a good assessment, man. It was light. It was very light. I dug it. At least I dug that aspect of it.
I
Um,
did like what they did with Mysterio, though. I mean, the fact that um, because his big thing is deception, so however you get to that end core of his character, whether it be magic or psychic abilities or whatever way you wanted to go, I thought they they were able to do it in a modern fashion, but keep the core of who Mysterio was. So I thought they did a really good job of that. It's not comic book Mysterio, even though the costume looked great.
Dude, that costume was so on point, man. That
Yeah,
was. I really dug that costume.
that's one thing I do love about the MCU is that they don't try to reinvent. When they did the X-Men movies, people just wanted to see a blue and yellow costume Wolverine. You know what I mean? That's all people wanted to see, and you never got it because every time they wanted to, spacesuit X-Men, and the
Yeah.
fact that they keep true to the core of these characters. Like I said, it wasn't magic. It wasn't, it was more technology and whatnot. So it was different, but really the same. His
Right.
his end game goals and his end game, abilities were still up that same deceptive, alter your reality kind of realm, which I respect that. They did a good job with it, so I'll take it, man. I'll take it as a W.
For sure. Absolutely. Speaking of costumes and all that, what do you think of all the Spider-Man suits they threw in here? I mean, we got 2 new suits in there, and then we got, pretty much all of Tom Holland's suits throughout being Spider-Man, throughout, even some
Yeah.
sequences smaller than others. But I mean, what do you think of the 2 new suits? How'd you feel about them?
The black suit, yeah, I don't know. I wasn't too big of a fan.
Dude, that stealth suit Spider-Man, I'm
Uh,
not gonna lie, I was super fucking disappointed with Night Monkey.
yeah, I was gonna say Night Monkey, wasn't it Night Monkey? Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not
because
a
he was
Night Monkey
wearing.
fan.
Yeah, the mask looked like someone just threw a ski mask over his face and they glued some eyeball flip lenses on there. I don't know. It
Yeah,
didn't look like it was designed by Shield. That's for fucking sure.
yeah, no, I wasn't a fan of that. I was a fan of the web pits, so you got his little squirrel suit, kind of Spider-Man suit.
Oh
Like
yeah, no, that his the final
I
suit that he
I
ended
did
up with. That
enjoy
was
that, and it was kind of like cool how they, I really think they're setting up Spider-Man to be the next character that kind of carries the MCU.
and
Iron Man.
it just makes the most sense. It really does. At first, no one I could see people not buying that because oh, he's just coming in. He's a 16-year-old boy. But between all the stuff that we've seen since Homecoming, Civil War, or really since Civil War up until now, I mean, he hasn't been on screen a whole lot, but we have seen a lot of growth, and he is kind of proving that he really should be the one carrying the MCU. I mean, I can't think of a better face. Maybe Doctor Strange. Feige says Captain Marvel, but I'm not buying that for a fucking second because you can't just shoehorn a character in and say this is the new face of the MCU, even though and it's the most divisive character the MCU's brought in. So it just makes sense for Spider-Man to come in.
Yeah, and I think the whole scene, of him designing his suit was kind of like it felt a lot of the movie felt like they were passing the torch from Iron Man to
Well,
Spider-Man on purpose.
even when he's designing the suit, Happy Hogan throws on the fucking goddamn AC/DC bullshit. Tony.
Yeah, I mean
The, the, the
that's a little
whole.
fan service. Like I could do without that a lot of times.
Yeah, yeah. No, that was total fan service, but at the same time, it was also very much them saying, this is him trying to potentially be the next Tony Stark. And that really seemed to be the theme to the whole movie, was who's going to be the next Tony Stark, because Mysterio wanted to be the next Tony Stark. And I mean, Spider-Man is kind of expected to be the next Tony Stark on account of the glasses, Edith and all that. We'll get to that in a minute, but so that was just the whole theme, it seemed, and I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool. Tony Stark was all over this fucking movie without being in this movie, so it was.
Yeah, they really did play up the well, I mean, because I think they just wanted to get across the fact that the world recognized him as the savior. He did save 3.5 billion people, at the
Oh
end of end game. So I think they were just trying to get across that no one forgot who he was and
no,
that
I totally
he's
buy that. I actually think that was a smart move. I do.
he's
I
kind
did
of
not
hit
expect to
he's
see
kind of
so
hit
much in
Jesus
there.
status in the MCU.
Yep. No, I get you there for sure. For sure. So, we thought we were gonna get a kind of the slew of villains, or at least I thought I was gonna get this slew of villains in this movie. Hydro Man and Molten Man and all that stuff. And What did you think of how they were portrayed? Because obviously it wasn't them.
It wasn't them, but at the same time, I think that was their like, hey, at least we gave you these. Like, it might not be the villains that you wanted, but it's the villains you're gonna get. So either take it or leave it.
Well, and it's not like we needed Hydro Man and Molten Man to be. We needed a whole saga based off of those guys. You know, I mean, they are totally one-off villains for sure. I could see a lot of people, you know, being pissed off because oh shit, these guys were holograms the whole time. What the, you know? So I could. Were you one of those people?
Not really. Like, I think it played into the story and the twist really well. You know, it wasn't like the scenes lacked action or anything like that. The fact that they were fake, I mean, it's a movie. Did you really need, like, unless you were really bought into, like, they're not characters, you know what I mean? They were
Well,
just
I think
kind of,
that's the beauty of it is because they didn't characterize them. We didn't have to invest any more love into any new characters because we all wanted to go in investing in the Mysterio is what it came down to. We really just wanted to invest in Mysterio being the new
so
face.
yeah, so you never get like attached to them. You know that they're just these temporary villains to carry the plot further.
I
um
thought that was a great choice in writing style there, man. I thought that was brilliant. I dug that quite a bit.
yeah, no, I enjoyed it.
Another thing they did to um, totally explain away so much hatred after Endgame was this air quote blip. You know,
I loved the blip. I loved it. I
dude,
loved
that it just shut down so many haters after Endgame because they just explained it all away. You know, wow, why are these kids 5 years? You know, the 5 year difference, and how come some
and
of them are still in
I
high school?
really enjoyed how they did it in the form of the like high school news, you know, AV club newsreel, and they didn't do it like really serious. They kind of just like were like, look, man, here it is. This is this, that is that. Motherfuckers blipped. Like, that's just how it went, you know.
Yeah, dude, that it just I love that for so many reasons, man. They can just continue to use that. That's just going to be a term from in the MCU.
Yeah, no, hashtag blip is probably a thing on Twitter right now if we
It's got to
check.
be
Like, you know, so I did like how they flat out addressed all the questions that you were going to have walking into a post Endgame MCU movie, and they hit all the nails on the head right away, got it out of the way, did it in a nice, fun, lighthearted kind of way, so that you weren't, you know, you didn't want to like feel that weight of like the end of Endgame and everything like that. They wanted to keep it up. The pace of the movie needed to be a lot faster. So the fact that they were able to do it in a really fun kind of campy way, I think that was a real big success.
for sure. No, I totally agree with you there. I'm starting to think this isn't one of those movies that we disagree on. We seem to be.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. We may have enjoyed it for different reasons, but I think overall, you know, it was a successful Marvel film. I mean, kudos to them for being able to come out of a film like Endgame and, you know,
Bring
still hit
about
still
interest.
hit the ground running. You know,
Yep.
like, yeah, kudos to them.
Yep, for sure, for sure. Dude, there are so many reasons to laugh in this movie. This is definitely a good comedy without it being way too in your face. But I think my favorite thing that made me laugh the most, which was kind of an ongoing joke, was the Peter Tingle.
The Peter Tingle, because
The fucking
he had
Peter
to get
Tingle, man.
his Peter Tingle back working. Like,
Oh,
yeah,
dude,
it was.
I love how the spider sense is yet to be mentioned yet. They've yet to mention spider sense since Civil War up until now.
Yeah, there's a few things with the whole Spider-Man franchise to begin with like that. I don't think that anybody has ever said the word thwip in a Spider-Man movie yet. And to not have any character refer to the sound effect, the you know, the most famous sound effect in all of comics, you know, it's either thwip or sknicked in for Wolverine. It could be a toss up for the most famous Marvel
Oh,
sound effect.
definitely the top two most famous onomatopoeias in all of comics ever, for sure. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about that. But it is kind of odd that through all of
You know,
the
I just want to hear Peter Parker say, "Yeah, I'm just going to run over there and thwip him real quick." and and have it be like you're gonna what, and have it be this little kind of nod to the comics and some
Yeah. Yeah,
Spider-Man
no, for sure.
fandom.
That needs to happen.
Like they do enough fan service. Can I get a bone here? Like, can I get one? You're gonna toss every other demographic, a joker here and there. Like, let me just get a thwip. Can a brother get a thwip?
It's a good point. That's yeah, I'm behind you on that for sure. We need a thwip in the movies for sure. Oh man. So the big, really the big driver of this whole movie was Edith. Edith being the glasses that are handed over to Parker. And who would have thought that these sunglasses this whole time would really been the force behind this whole movie, or at least it gives it a plot. So I mean, what did you think about Edith? And I love the acronym, and it's even in death I'm the hero.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, this is our what third rendition of a Tony Stark AI that kind of controls everything. I did find it odd that handing over like essentially the nuclear codes would be that easy. Hey, I'm gonna
Yeah.
pass these glasses off. Like the fact that he puts on the glasses and it scans everybody and knows who everybody is, but when he looks at Mysterio, he doesn't know that he's a dude that worked at Stark Industries and was fired. Like the glasses just don't pick up Edith, like the fact that
Or
he
how about
worked
the
at
fact
Stark Industries. He's not from another dimension. He worked for the company that made those glasses. Yet there's no file on dude when he looks at him. Like,
well, the same thing with them not recognizing certain heroes as scrolls. How come he doesn't? I don't know. Maybe the power of being a scroll is that I don't know. Maybe that code's integrated into the glasses because of the scenario. But yeah, no. Even then, it's never
well,
mentioned.
and you give a drone army with the power to probably take over most small third world countries, and you just make, like I said, a kid has easy access to it. There's no fail safes built in.
Yeah,
Like,
that's the big thing is these drones were more than willing to just blow up this 16-year-old kid. Like no questions that is this the target? Are you sure?
yeah,
Yes. Didn't even have to finish he couldn't even get the R and the E off from the word sure before the things were willing to fire.
deleting files on my computer has more safe breaks than that. Like yeah, it was. So there, that I mean, on the Nerd Cantina review I wrote, I only gave it 4 stars. It's missing a star for like stuff like that,
Oh
like
yeah, no, I would
inconsistencies. It wasn't a perfect movie. It was good. It was a good movie, but like, yeah, a lot of the Edith stuff didn't sit right with me, just because, like, realistically, like, really, Tony Stark's the smartest man in the MCU so far until, someone gives us a fucking Reed Richards, for God's sake.
yeah. Yeah.
But, there's no fail safes in. The kid could just hand the glasses over to an ex Stark employee, and there's no red flag that goes up in that computer system at all. Like, give me a break.
Yeah. I'm with you there. That was one way it did kind of fall short just a little bit. Um, Now, one thing about this new Spider-Man universe that really just has irked me from the beginning is Mary Jane. And more than anything, I'm just pissed they still haven't given her red hair yet. Just dye the bitch's hair red. I don't care if it's even just red at the tips or whatever. Just give a little bit of red hair in there. So I don't know. It's not supposed to be Mary Jane Watson or whatever. But if you're gonna try to give us a Mary Jane story, then I don't know. Just something. But I will say this movie, I found it to be really redeeming with her character. I thought she was a cool character, and I was expecting a lot more of her, and that was something that I was not looking forward to because my least favorite Spider-Man stories are the love stories. I mean, I'm in a very small group of people in that manner, but I don't like those Spider-Man stories.
Well,
I
that's
just
a
know a
big
little bit.
part of the Spider-Man stories is, the fact that Peter Parker is a teenager. That's when everybody falls in love for the first time, that kid, just dumb hormonal love stories. Like, it is a big part of every 14 to 17-year-old's life, and you can't have a realistic teenage superhero without him having that hormonal crush and stuff like that. So I think it really is essential to
No,
his
and
character.
I don't disagree with that at all, but that doesn't mean I don't like it. I would rather see Spider-Man punching, Green Goblin in the face than worrying about his date with Mary Jane. But if you're gonna put Mary Jane in there, at least give her fucking red hair, man. But with all that being said, I actually did. I wasn't mad with how they played.
Her character added a lot to the film. Like
Did
she did a really good job, and they didn't give you so much that the film became a Spider-Man and Mary Jane
no,
movie.
and that's what I thought
But
it was going to
they
be.
gave you just enough to like want a little bit more. Like you left the theater like, oh, I could have. She was funny in times, and their relationship was good. Like I could have did with a couple more of those scenes. It left you wanting, which is actually really good because I think in the third Spider-Man movie, that's where you're going to get a Spider-Man and Mary Jane type movie where she does have a real prevalent role, and hopefully they'll keep up the good writing and storytelling that goes along with that. But her character added a lot, and the red hair stuff doesn't bother me as much. I enjoy what her personality and the way she portrays Mary Jane is like in my review I called it the cool nerd. So she's like the cool nerdy and he's the awkward nerdy, and they're kind of like feeling each other out. Like they did a really good job of portraying those two like character types. And yeah, I think going forward, I think you'll get a little bit more of her. But this movie was just the right amount, just enough to leave you wanting and looking forward to a Spider-Man 3 where she might be in, more scenes and have a bigger role to play.
And I will agree. I don't think it was too much at all. I was expecting to be overwhelmed, and I think it was just the right amount. So I got to give it to him on that one. I don't hate the Mary Jane thing, not so much. Um, Now there's a one thing that kind of just it threw me off, but they did explain it away, and it was how Nick Fury just knew fucking nothing throughout this whole thing. He was just he really knew nothing, and they tried
Well,
to
he was
explain it away.
crying that they didn't, no one respect my authority. Like he was all upset that he wasn't in the know anymore. And yeah, this is the second Marvel film now that they've really kind of just, I think, not have done the Nick Fury character a good service.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe just because Nick Fury's been in everything almost, that they figure that it's like once you become a multi-platinum artist, you could just record whatever the fuck you want and it'll sell because you are who you are. At this point, I think Nick Fury is just that's the dick he's swinging right now. I could be any version of me and or of Nick Fury, and people are gonna eat it up. And there's gonna be a few comic book nerds that don't dig it, but fuck them. And I think I just kind of think that that's how Marvel's handling this character now.
Well, I mean, eventually Maria Hill takes over Shield in the comics, and I think we're going to enter that point, especially with Marvel wanting to have females have a more prevalent role in the MCU. I think we're going to end up hitting the point where Nick Fury kind of bows out at some point. Samuel L's been in the since day one. He's been in these things. So I think he might take a step back, and they might let the Maria Hill character maybe run Shield for a little while, like she did in the comics.
Yeah, and I mean, I could see them doing that. That makes sense. I'm not really looking forward to that because she's one of my least favorite comic book characters. But at the same time, I mean, it's the comics and the movies are still very different. And who knows what Feige could do to a character to make it interesting. So I don't
You
know. I
need
could see Maria Hill taking over.
you need Samuel L. Jackson is getting a little too old to be a action star, and I think people are wanting a little bit more out of the Nick Fury character than just a hard-nosed general type, that comes in and this is the plan, and they're really not doing his character any services, and the fact that, you know, comic book Nick Fury's a badass. He's, you know, he gets in the fights. It's a lot more than just hiding behind a car and giving cover fire.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, give us the Howling Commandos. Give us something like that, man. Give us some real Nick Fury stories. Shit. At this point, I think a Nick Fury solo movie backstory would be fun. I mean, before Captain Marvel and all of that. Let us see. I mean, it's Samuel L. Jackson. He can make it
Well,
interesting.
I think with the way they ruined his character in Captain Marvel, that they need to give you a in between Captain Marvel and current, and
Yeah.
show you how that he went from a cat scratched my face kind of bumbling like secret agent into this, you know, decorated general that commands respect everywhere he goes and is just a you know, badass motherfucker. You don't get that from Captain Marvel, and it's starting to fade in these latest renditions of the characters. So I think you
Yeah.
almost need something. But at the same time, I think Samuel L. Jackson's too old to do a movie like that.
Yeah, he's getting up there, man. He's
Like
getting up
I
there.
think you're gonna need it. I think you're just gonna really need a new face. You
Yeah,
know,
no, yeah, and you're absolutely right. Maria Hill is the easy answer for sure. I mean, and they
and it
definitely
stays
use
with
her in the movie.
continuity.
So yeah, yeah, no, I dig it. Um, oh shoot, there's so. All right, let's get to the post credit scenes.
Yeah,
What did there were two, and I'll be damned if you stayed for both of them, right?
yeah, I stayed for both.
Yeah, and this was so hard for me because I took my 5-year-old nephew, and I mean, just getting him to chill out for the first post credit scene was
Oh yeah, and the second one's so long. It's so
oh yeah, and there's just that credit roll is so long in between those. So I I almost got up, and then I said, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna get on the internet real quick. Is it gonna be worth it? Because if it's gonna be like Captain Marvel's second credit scene, I would have, you know, been out for sure. But when I saw the word scroll, and I was like, oh shit, no, I gotta stay. But let's talk about that first one, which I think is probably the biggest and best thing to happen out of this movie, and that's J. Jonah Jameson.
yeah. I thought, and the fact that it's the same actor from the
J.K.
original,
Simmons, dude.
there no one else can play him.
No,
Like,
there's been no better rendition of J.K. Simmons. Or you could hear you can't read a Spider-Man comic now without seeing J. Jonah Jameson on the panel and hearing it as J.K. Simmons screaming it.
yeah, and the fact that he's, you know, like, I don't know whose idea it was, if he was like, look guys, you gotta let me do it, or if they were just like, would you want to do it again, and he was just like, fuck yeah, like that's me, I'm that dude,
Uh,
you know,
he's
like.
got work for life now because
And
J. Jonah Jameson isn't a character that could ever age out of the universe. I mean, so it's perfect. It's
well,
absolutely
the next one, it maybe leads you to believe that we're going to get our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man again, because it's going to be a more, if they're going to bring him in, then it's got to be a more localized movie, because he's local press, and it, you know, he Spider-Man's the bad guy in his eyes at all times, and if they're going to play on that, which is, you know, what we should be led to believe, you know, you're probably going to get back to the local New York friendly neighborhood Spider-Man kind of stories, and
yeah.
that's kind of exciting.
Well, I know that there's definitely been rumors thrown about they want to bring in either Deadpool or Venom into the Spider-Man 3. And I could see them doing Venom in a sense because with now that J. Jonah Jameson is about, we could bring in the Eddie Brock thing.
Yeah,
So I could see Eddie Brock going to work for the Daily Bugle. Well, like, it's not the Daily Bugle anymore. He works for a fucking uh shit news site. Or yeah.
well, I mean, you have to keep up with the times
Oh
and
yeah, no, for
stuff
sure. I
like
dig it.
that.
I like where they I because now we get to see his face. He's screaming now instead of him dictating it to a writer. I like that aspect way more. I like how they modernized that for sure. But I don't know, it just makes sense to bring in Eddie Brock now. So I could see that happening.
It is an exciting endpoint to get us guys like us talking about a third movie 2 days after,
I know.
a day after the first showings, so like it did a good job in that sense. Is it gave you that nice, like, kind of like, not really a cliffhanger, but a, like, oh, you didn't think we were going to do this, guess what, boom, and then they throw J. Jonah at you.
And then after all that, they throw the cliffhanger, because it's not just J. Jonah Jameson being J. Jonah Jameson. It's J. Jonah Jameson uh, straight up outing Spider-Man's identity already. So we've already got the big identity outing. Now, immediately I'm bummed because we're not going to get the Illuminati to fix it all. like that's what happens in the comics originally. That's how he fixes it the first time, is he gets Stark, Richards, and I think T'Challa, or is it Banner? One of them. But he
T'Challa
gets
is part of the
all of those guys and together, and it's essentially the majority of the Illuminati. And Doctor Strange, that's what it is. And they create a giant magic spell to wipe out everyone's memories of his identity. That's not going to happen in this one, or at least with that same.
It'll be interesting to see how they handle it. Like, they obviously have a plan. They wouldn't do these things
Oh yeah, no.
unless they obviously have a plan on where they want to take this. And like I said, if Spider-Man's gonna be the character that carries the MCU torch, they might address it in somebody else's movie, and have it done there. His introduction was in an ensemble Captain America movie. He's only had two of his own. He was in Endgame and Infinity War. So the majority of Spider-Man scenes have been in like other people's movies.
No, that's
so they might address this in some other form faster than having to wait the 3-year production wait that we're probably going to have to for part 3.
Or at least address it in some manner to where we're going to be hinted at in something. It may not be a full reveal, but at least some sort of clue or something along those lines.
Maybe they'll do a Venom 2, and that's how they'll handle it, is have a second Venom movie. And
yeah, they're slated for 3, so Venom. Tom Hardy did sign on for 3 Venom movies now, so.
And that's what I mean with Marvel owning it. If they want to bring him in the universe, they could do it, and then have a Spider-Man in that movie, and just, yeah, who knows how they'll do it. Like, it's exciting though. I'm glad to be talking about these things in like a wider scope of future sense. After Infinity War, everything was just like hyper focused on one movie and what was going to happen in this one movie, because a whole bunch of Marvel movies kind of funneled into one. Well, now we got to widen, the other end of that. We have to take one movie and widen it back into an expanding universe before it can contract back down to one. So to see the way that they're gonna to widen it out again is it's exciting.
For sure. And I think this movie did a good job of maintaining audiences' interest, because I've asked a lot of people out of my own curiosity after Endgame, do you care about the Marvel movies anymore? Was it overwhelming? Is it too much? Was this a good ending? And most people said, yeah, I'm probably going to take a break. But if people did make it out to see Spider-Man, I think a lot of people are going to change their opinions on that, because I'm excited. I didn't lose excitement, but I had a feeling that they were going to pull back the reins really, really, really hard for a couple of years, and I don't think they pulled back all that hard in this movie.
No, I think a lot of the people that were skeptical are just like, yeah, I'm kind of burnt out. After people leave this movie and are like, no, you should probably go see this movie. Like, I think a lot of people are, so it'll have a good second weekend and third weekend and fourth weekend, I think, just because a lot of people are gonna come back and tell it like, yo, you went and saw it, like, yeah, would it's you should probably go see it. It's definitely worth it. It's not what you think. Just go in and have a good time. And I think more of the audience will just be slow lurchers into the theater, rather than huge opening weekend. Like I'm wondering where this one's going to fall on opening weekends, especially with it being the holiday weekend and stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. With it being a Tuesday release, that definitely threw. I didn't even realize until, I mean, I was just looking at my phone and I saw, oh, that end credit scene is Spider-Man. I was like, oh shit, what day is it? I had, and I immediately I went and bought a ticket for the next showing I could find because I couldn't afford to not be on my phone because I had work to do. So I went and got a ticket to the next day. I had no idea that the movie was even coming out that day. So I was just such an odd release day. I wonder, so it makes me wonder how it is going to affect sales because I know everyone I know is out camping and shit. So
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I bought tickets a couple months ago when they first went on sale just to make sure that I had my seat, and no, didn't really realize it was a Tuesday until like a couple days ago.
yeah,
I actually thought it was today, and then I was like,
yeah,
it's not the third, it's the second. I was like, man, okay, like all right.
yeah.
And then I made me wonder like why there wasn't like the midnight Monday showing, why it was Tuesday the first day I could buy it. Like, if it premieres on Tuesday, then they usually do a few of the 10 o'clock shows the day
Right.
night before, because I would have seen it on Monday then.
Yeah. The theater I go to, they do a like a 5 or a 6 o'clock showing. So usually, some, I mean, even up to a 7 o'clock showing for the first show. So I mean, you could go pretty early the day before usually. So nope, none of that here. None of that
Yeah, I
here.
don't know.
The last final thing I want to touch on was I mean, there were two post-credit scenes. And it really kind of leads into probably the biggest disappointment I had in Endgame, and that was the total lack of scroll mentioning at all. They mentioned zero scrolls at all in Endgame, and I thought that was going to be one of the bigger reveal things they were going to do without having to really blow anybody's mind, but just still get a wow factor. Was say, oh, so and so was a scroll, by the way, and it could have been someone small, and I would have been fine with it, but we got nothing. And then we got this whole movie where they mentioned no scrolls whatsoever until that last credit scene. And I thought it was just, it's so cool. It's just fucked up how they're using them, but fucked up in a way that I find to be very amusing.
Yeah, I don't know. I it didn't sit too well with me, like the fact that one, that Fury would allow them to go off and do that. Like he would allow someone to kind of play him in a half-assed version of himself in an official capacity.
And Maria Hill as well. I mean, we got to see what Fury was doing during that whole time, but we never got to see what Maria Hill was actually
And do you
doing.
really know what he's doing? Like, do you really know? You just know where he's at.
Well, that's true. You just
You
know
don't
he's up in
really,
space, just fake chilling.
you
So,
know.
but with
And
a whole ship full of scrolls. It's
but and I don't like the fact that they're leading them to believe they're like on our side. Like the Skrulls are some of the most famous villains. Secret Invasion's one of the best crossover events Marvel's ever done, and that's what I'm hoping this ends up leading up to, is a Secret Invasion storyline somewhere in the future.
We at least need one villainous scroll, man. Give us Super Scroll. You know, if you want to make all the scrolls
Well,
good, I guess
you can't give
I
us
guess I'm
Super
okay with
Skrull
that
until
because
the
they at least
Fantastic
made them
Four. Well,
likable.
maybe that's how they bring in the Fantastic Four, is what they want to do more with the Skrulls, and they introduce the Fantastic Four and the Super Skrulls. Or they did make reference to a secret Kree like cell at one point in the movie, that they do acknowledge that there's Kree living on Earth hidden among us. Like it was a really quick one line thing that they said. I'm sure a lot of people missed it, but like when I heard it, I was like, "Oh shit, we're talking about Kree." I like
I
we
thought I heard
we
something.
mentioned the word Kree in the Spider-Man movie. Okay, okay.
I thought I heard the word Kree too, but you're right. It did just kind of came quick and fast. The other thing that they didn't really verbally mention, but while Peter's on the flight and he's going through and looking at all the movies and stuff, and there's a bunch of documentaries, we see one thing on there where they mention Nova, and they don't necessarily say it's the Nova, but or I mean the a person is Nova, but as he's flipping through, it's like a Captain America documentary and a Iron Man documentary, and then something Nova. So I mean, there's a hint at that coming in there too, and I don't know. There's just it does set up a lot of things. I don't know how quick we'll get them, but I really if the scrolls don't lead to a secret invasion event of some sort, then I think they're kind of wasting the scrolls, especially since they're not even villainous at this point.
Exactly. They make them seem like this like soft race of
Yeah.
like lonely refugees, and they want this like they want you to feel bad for their character. And for people that don't read comics, I guess that's good, because when the hammer drops that they're these ruthless villains, um there some people might be shocked, and it might be a good moment for them. But for someone who's read the comics and has known about scrolls for fucking what, 50 years, they it's really weird to see them being portrayed like this. Just doesn't sit right, given the fact that either where they're going with it really slowly, or what they're wasting an opportunity to do with these characters, if
And
they don't.
and considering the movie they were introduced in, I mean, I'm not sure. Normally, I would have all types of faith. So yeah, no, they got this. But the way they came in and the movie that they were introduced in, I don't know if I have as much faith, because I mean, the more and more I think of, I mean, I gotta say, Captain Marvel is my least favorite MCU movie. Now that I went through and thought about it real hard, and it was just, I mean, just cinematic. It was just a bad movie. It was felt really, really, really rushed and lazy, and it makes me worry about the scrolls. I do, because that was really the only reason, besides obligations to do a podcast on the movie, that I went and saw the movie. I mean, at least the only actual interest I had personally was the scrolls. Because I've never liked Captain Marvel as a character ever, period, since the beginning of the character.
Well, and I don't like what they're doing with these characters. They're making them like, I guess campy is the word to use. I don't know, like they're not strong versions of themselves. It's like they're caricatures
You're absolutely right.
of a strong character. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know exactly how to put it into words, but it's like the doll version of what these characters should be.
I agree. I agree, man. I do. So we've seen this version of Spider-Man in 5 adaptations now, or at least 5 different movies. We've seen him in Civil War, the 2 Avengers movies, and his 2 uh, standalone movies. Rank your favorite Tom Holland appearance so far out of the 5.
Um, I mean, his own movies are his own movies, because he gets to really step in front of the camera and do his thing. But I still think the way they used him in Civil War was phenomenal. His original introduction, the dialogue, the back and forth, the action scenes, like they really used him, I think, the best in Civil War. But Homecoming is a solid movie. Like, it was a good intro to the character, to really solidify who Peter Parker is, what kind of Spider-Man he's gonna be. And Far From Home just kind of carried that with it.
Yeah,
It didn't ruin the feel of Homecoming, but it also, I don't think, did as good of a job as Homecoming did, is portraying the characters. It was more about, I think, Mysterio, because they wanted to do the good bait and switch on it. So as it progressed, the Peter Parker, the MJ, all the friends, it progressed, the blip and everything it did, but not as much as they really tried to get you tied to the Mysterio character, so they could pull the rug out from under you. So you don't really get hooked into Spider-Man as much as you did in the first film with the second one.
gotcha. Yeah, no, well, I'd have to agree with you there on some aspects, but I would say overall, as far as just an entertainment level for me, I really think that this is probably my favorite out of all of them. I
Really?
really liked Far From Home quite a bit. Homecoming, I was kind of on the fence on, because I wasn't entertained throughout all of the movie, and I think that was just one. It was a really, really heavy on the love aspect of it all, and for really no payoff whatsoever. So I don't know. I mean, it kind of made sense throughout that whole movie. It's just, like I said, because I'm not really drawn to that plot, it wasn't as good for me. This one, it was just the right amount. And as much as I love Michael Keaton as the Vulture, this one was the villain was just way too good for me. Jake Gyllenhaal was just perfect as Mysterio. It's a shame that they killed him off. I mean, they can't have totally killed him off. We got to see Sinister Six, right? I mean,
Yeah, we'll see how
we'll
they
see.
end it, you know.
Well,
But yeah, I mean I see your point. I think that, you know, for me the way that, you know, the scenes where he's trying to figure out the suit and how he's starstruck by Tony Stark, and you see more of his relationship with him and his aunt, that plays more into the classic Spider-Man role. Like I think that the first one just kind of, you know, did a really good job of getting you hooked on this Spider-Man. We've had other versions of Spider-Man. You know, there's a lot of ways that you could portray this character and overdo certain things or underdo certain relationships. And I think that they really hit the nail on the head with the first one, and doing a more modern take on Aunt May, you know, kind of a younger, more vibrant, you know, older woman character rather than the granny type Aunt May.
yeah.
So they have a better banter and a better relationship that plays well.
Yeah, no, I do enjoy I do enjoy that aspect of
You know,
Aunt May.
and I think the second movie benefits from how well they did the first movie is that you just get to they carry that on their back walking into this movie, so that the other things of Far From Home are what's highlighted and you enjoy, because they already laid that foundation of who Peter Parker is, his relationship with Aunt May, you know, his relationship with his friends. Like the origin movies are usually the worst of the like character trilogies. You know, the first Captain America, the first Thor, like they all have to do so much character development that the plot most of the time suffers a little bit in the rendition. So to have an origin movie do a really good job of not just getting you bonded to this character and introducing a character, but also telling a story and taking you from a beginning to an end. It is one of the better of the origins, I think, in the MCU, and I think it should get its credit.
Yeah, no, and I'm not, by no means do I think it was a bad movie or anything like that. It was just, you know, as far as the MCU movies, it had a lot to live up to, or the bar was high, is what I'm trying to say. So it's, Homecoming just kind of fell short for me in comparison. But when after do have a lot more respect for it now after, because I did not expect to. I was not excited about this movie at all until they mentioned multiverse, and I just from there I just figured, okay, they're just going to give us a huge timeline for Phase 4, and
I really
they
thought this was going to
Mysterio'd
be the
me.
movie they jumped the shark. I thought this movie was going to be the one where they jumped the shark and really just dive face first into this multiverse and try to tell these uber sci-fi storylines instead of telling character stories that they've been so good at for the last decade. You know, I really thought that they were gonna jump the shark on this one. I'm so glad that they didn't.
Yeah, no, they fucking tricked us both, man. And I think it was all for the best for sure.
No, they did. The
Where
media campaign was really good in playing towards people's fears and then alleviating those fears with a good movie. Like I think that was the best strategy. It's a risky one, but it works, man. It really did work.
And I think it was ironic that they did it with Mysterio as the villain too. You know, they fucking pulled the curtain over us, so just like Mysterio would, I guess.
Well, we all knew he couldn't be. There's no way he could be the good guy. But it was like, how are they going to spin this?
Right.
How are they going to turn him into a bad guy? And yeah, you thought it was going to have something to do with multiple dimensions and a bunch of bullshit. And I'm just glad they made it like, no, we're just a bunch of smart dudes and regular dudes. We're like, I like the fact that they solidified our dimension again and didn't play in a bunch of what if bullshit that the world blew up, a bunch of crazy shit happened, and now we're kind of sucking back down to okay, we're it's post Endgame. Everybody get over it. This is the new world. Let's move forward. Let's not keep talking about this and that happened in the past. Let's look forward to the MCU, and I'm so glad they're going in that direction.
Yeah, and even though there was technically him traveling around the world, it still felt like a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So it was, I don't know, I appreciated it for that aspect for sure.
Yeah, it was Spider-Man Euro trip.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
Pretty much. Well, you said you gave it a 4 out of 5. I'd probably have to agree with that. I'd probably have to give it a 4 out of 5 myself.
it wasn't a perfect movie, but it was still a good movie. So it deserves its credit.
I'd say out of all the live action Spider-Man films, I I would have to rank it towards the top for myself actually. I might have to. I
Yeah,
mean,
this franchise is killing the old ones, the Sony ones. Like
yeah,
this franchise is killing them. Tom
yeah, for
Holland's the
sure,
best
man.
rendition of Spider-Man they've had so far, and he just plays that character so well. He fits it. He looks young. He acts childish when he needs to, but a mature childish when the character demands that maturity. Um, yeah, no, I'm completely happy with the franchise so far.
Right on. Well, I think we could about wrap this up. Before we go though, I want to give you a chance to plug your podcast, man. Tell people what the Nerd Cantina is all about. I know this is definitely where I go for all of my nerd news first. That's for sure. I'm not just saying that. I've said this in the past. Since you started your podcast, I know I've been listening since the beginning. I've watched the growth. I really enjoy your guys' content. It's very insightful. Yeah, it's well thought out, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, we're just trying to promote positive nerd life. It's nerd culture is kind of taken over, and it's gotten a little diluted with everybody thinking they're nerds. But so we want to give like the true nerds a nice cool hangout to promote their stuff, their lifestyle, talk to other people about what they like, so we don't specify just to one thing. I mean, I write movie reviews and TV show reviews, but we have board game reviewers, book reviewers on there. I write just random articles, tidbit articles and things like that.
Yeah, and you
So
guys get relevant guests on there too, with your video game segment. You guys get, people with huge video game followings and stuff on there to come on and talk about. I mean, yeah, no, yeah, and you do have a pretty decent guest list, that's for sure. I loved your Comic-Con cover, or C2
C2E2, yeah,
covers. Yeah.
it was a fun time. So we're just trying to have a nice little nerd hangout for everybody to come by. The comic book guys like yourself, everybody. If you go to the nerdcantina.com /community, that'll take you to our closed Facebook group where everybody hangs out and drops their best memes, and we have a couple theme days and things like that. Then there's the podcast, the Nerd Cantina Show. We do a weekly news show, and then on the side do Cantina Conversations where we have interviews with people promoting nerd life in a cool nerd way, screenwriters, authors, comic book writers, things like that. And then I think after this episode, we're going to record another Fight Me Friday.
Nice.
So every once in a while, we like to put two nerds up against each other and let them duke it out, with their wits. So it's a lot of fun things going on. Come check us out. Brian hangs out. It's a good time.
Oh yeah, man. You could be supported on Patreon too, right?
Yeah,
Patreon.
we have a Patreon page. Actually, I just ordered a shit ton of stickers. So anybody that joins up on Patreon in the next 2 months, we're mailing you a free sticker. The smallest donation is $1. So a buck will get you a sticker, and you can come and you can support the show and get a little bit of swag to go along with it. Every dollar goes towards these nice microphones and upgrading cameras and things like that, and keeping the monthly bills away.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. Well, dude, I really appreciate you coming on. I'm definitely gonna have you on for sure
No,
again.
it's a good time. We did this for one of our comic book articles. We haven't done it since, so it was good. It's a good time hanging out.
For sure, man. Well, you have a happy holiday. Be safe. Don't blow any limbs off.
Yeah, same to you guys, and to all your listeners, man. America, fuck yeah.
America, fuck yeah. That's how we're gonna end this, dude. Cheers.
Cheers.